Oh, yeah, Bob's getting closer. Okay, so I'm getting ready to button this thing up. One more time, make sure that everything is right. I've glued my servos in. Now I want to make sure I got the right direction. So because the control rods are on the bottom, they need to push this way to push the elevons up for up control. So pulling back, yes, they both come back. Perfect. A left turn. Well, that's backwards, isn't it? If I want to do a left turn, no, I need this wing down, so that's a push. A right turn, so everything is good. Now, a motor test. The motor is glued in. Like I said, I use hot glue. So hot glue is holding the thrust tube as well as the EDF in. So very, very carefully. I'm wearing safety goggles. I'm going to hold it. I've got a very large battery connected just for the super duper amps that I need. So here comes a full power test. Okay, it's spinning in the right direction. Nothing is moving. Electrics do vibrate. You know, they're not as bad as gas engines, but if things aren't glued together, they can vibrate. So make sure things are glued. Don't get carried away being super lightweight, because we can't get back in here once we close all this up. So make sure your motor's in there. Don't get carried away with extra glue, but don't go cheap. The other thing that you should do is, if you know how to program your speed controllers, turn the brake off. A brake on an EDF is not a great idea, because every time you go off the throttle, the motor stops, and then the rotor wants to keep spinning, and that'll eventually, the rotor will fall off. So that's not. So turn the brake off. We don't need a brake on this. Definitely no reverse. We're not doing reverse thrust. I thought that would be cool. No, we're not doing that. And one more thing that I was going to tell you about this install. Oh, speed control timing. If you know how to mess around with it, stock is fine. From the factory, the speed controls actually have variable motor timing. And with EDFs, you can actually, if you really want to tweak it, you can tweak it up. You can advance the timing. You get a couple extra 1,000 RPM. But generally, just turn the brake off and you can leave the other settings alone, and that works really fine. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to mock up the wing attach so that we can get this piece on, so that we can paint the back while it's all apart, without actually gluing the wing on. So just give me a second to set that up. Okay, now we're going to show you the next step. Is how to get ready to close off this back while setting up for the wing. So way up here in the front, everybody will see that there's lines that have been drawn for your battery hatch, and there's also a mark. The mark, pardon the pun, is put on. What I want you to do is take tape, Blendrum tape, Scotch tape. Don't use palm. You could use packing tape. Put it on the wing, and then I'm kind of pushing. Make sure everything is lined up, and then I tape it. Make sure this is lined up the way that you want it. Okay, good. So now our front is lined up. You can see on the back, I can still wiggle it a little bit, right? But what I want is I kind of want that centered, because what I'm going to do is I am going to line this up, and it should just drop down. Look at that. Perfect. Lined up with those marks, and those marks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this piece, not the wing. I'm going to glue this piece in now, and then we'll be able to pop the wing out afterwards, and we'll be able to remove the wing. That way we got everything lined up, and we can still work on other stuff without the wing in our way. We really don't want this wing on yet because we have more stuff to do. So once again, I'm shutting the camera off while I do this, but I'm going to foam safe CA this little guy on there because I want to get some more sanding done. And everything is lining up. Hang on. A little tip and trick on foam safe CA. Sometimes it's better to put the glue on the surface like so. And then we got to glue this back up here too. And then what I do is I put the kicker. I'll kick the surface, not on my skin. All right, and then the second I lay this down, it's going to be instant. So I want my wing back in here now. Just fold it out of the way. Line everything up again, right? Get it centered. And the second I set this in there, that foam safe CA is going to kick off on me. And boom. So now you just got to hold it. Again, there's no glue on the wing part, just on the foam part. Right? We could even just kind of flip that. And because it's taped, we can kind of flip it over, get it out of the way, and just hold that in place and wait for that foam safe CA to kick off on us. If we have to, foam safe CA does not sand very well, so we really don't want to put glue in there. It's better to come up from the other side. But if I have to, I can just kind of inject it in there. right? You know, if you got to kind of wiggle things like that, you can see that as I wiggle it, it's obviously not glued. Now I got glue all over my fingers. Not very nice. And now I'll just give it a kick and wait for the glue to dry. Story of my life. Right. The glue is dried. That's the advantage of using Kicker. If you use something else, it'd be slower. But make sure that your glue is dried and you got a nice bond. And what we're going to do is, once again, you can see that things aren't perfectly lined up, and that's okay. We're just going to sand things and make them perfect. You can see that we're not perfect there. That's okay. Once the glue is dried, which it still hasn't, this is why I hate working with Foam Safe CA. I'm just trying to do things way too fast. But anyways, I'll get this dry, and I'm going to start sanding, same as I did on the bottom. I'm going to sand this side down first, and I'm going to sand this side, then I'll sand the top and get everything nicely lined up, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do next. Be right back. So same thing as before. I'm not pushing real hard. I'm just sanding off the excess. This sanding block is fine, ultra fine, would just take a little longer. Don't go coarser. That really makes a mess of the Depron. But I'm just sanding it until I get the line that I want, this side line. So now you can see that it's perfectly following the contour that we want. Still a little high on this other edge. I'm good on this side. I got a little lip here, so let's just get rid of it. It's not hard to do. It's Depron. So I'll just sand across like so. Again, pushing in that little bit. Until I get the look that I'm after. Not a lot of sanding is required, but I'll do this. I'm not going to do it in real time. You can already see how quickly I'm getting a nice line. Again, this is sport scale. We actually came up with the term. This is called galloping, what was it, galloping horse scale? You know, you're not going to see this once a year. We're not trying to build a museum quality piece. We're just trying to get it right. Don't round this edge off though, because we actually want a sharp line transitioning off from the wing, so we don't round this one. We just get her nice and flush like that. Again, on the back, trailing edges, it's better if you leave them sharp. So I just want to line this up, get things done, and then I'm going to show you the next step. All these little steps. Okay, I'm done sanding. I've got a look that I like, but I've got dust everywhere. So I gave it a wipe with the alcohol. That doesn't work. Sometimes it just doesn't. You can go buy tack rags. You can buy those at any hardware store. They work really good at getting the dust off. But if you're cheap like me, you don't want to spend money on stuff. Another great thing for a tack rag, the big wide blue painter's tape. Rip off a piece, tape it onto itself in a circle. I got this from my old military days. And it's a lint brush. Don't push hard. And you can do this to get all the dust off. We can't paint dust, so we got to get all this sanding dust, get things nice and clean. If you have compressed air, you can use compressed air. Just be careful that you have dry air and you're not blowing oil. And be really careful with this blue tape because it will pull the skin of the Depron off. So I'm doing this very lightly. I'm just trying to get the dust off. Now, why am I doing this? Well, it's time to do some painting. So we supplied you guys with orange for touch-ups. We also gave you this little vial of black paint. And what we're going to do, the arrow looks way better if this is black at the back. So all the things that I've been painting, I like to keep them consistent because that's just my OCD. I'm using my frog yellow, something super delicate. Okay, I just tear off a little piece. And I think I want my black on the back to be what is this? 25 mil tape? Yeah, so it's 1 inch wide. So that's what I want it to be wide. So I'm going to go ahead and tape it off. That's just my measurement mark. The real tape that I'm going to do, get everything all nice and lined up, is like that. This comes off. That's now my taped edge. I'm going to go and tape the whole thing all the way around. I don't have to go past there. This is the edge that we kind of want to make sure is stuck. We're going to get a bit of bleed, and we can push that down. And what you're going to do is you're going to take any flat paintbrush. You don't need to get an airbrush. This is what this is for. This is ready to go. You don't need to mix thin or anything else. You're just going to open it up carefully, not spilling. Get some black. And if you go, you can see the black, if you pull this way with very light amounts of paint, right? Don't go heavy. You might actually take 2 coats. If you go this way, I'm just going to show you real quick how this works. All right? Don't worry about all this. We can just get crazy with that. But if you pull this way, when you pull your tape off, voila, perfect edge, no bleed through. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this off, and I'm going to paint the back of the arrow and let that dry while I go work on some other stuff, because it's a bazillion times easier to paint this now than it is when the model's assembled. A very short tutorial on how to paint. Now I am painting with a brush. I've taped it all off. I've mushed it down as much as I could, and that's just one really quick coat with a brush. And I got pretty good coverage. And remember I said, make sure this thing is clean. Any oil from your fingerprints, you get fisheye, the paint won't stick. I got a little bit of fisheye right there and there, even though I wiped it. And that's okay, because we can get it on the second coat. So you want to rush things a bit. In my shop, I always have a hairdryer. Again, heat. Be very careful with heat around Depron. But you know, if I put my hands there and I'm far enough away, I can get this paint to dry, ooh, like real quick. And then I can do a second coat. Watch how quick I can get that paint to dry. You gotta know your hairdryer and how hot it is. This isn't very hot. You know, not even close to a windy day at Gimli kind of thing. I did paint inside, and it's that paint sticks to the plastic, not too bad. It didn't stick to the tape worth a damn. So you see, I can just go around. All right. And then, getting my handy dandy paint. By the way, this frog tape works great for this little tray that it comes in. Makes a great tray to put all your stuff in, so if you knock it over accidentally, which I've done, you don't get it all over the place. So I'm just going to touch up those areas. Oh, look how black that is. Right, and again, just light coats, pulling across the tape to try to minimize the amount of bleed underneath. And we'll just keep doing this. And again, I'm not going to show you this. So I'm just going to keep painting it. It looks like 2 coats is going to be more than enough. We've supplied you with a ton of paint. And brushing is fine. You'll never see this. But the black on the back is going to make her pop real nice.